Hello everyone, welcome to Apti Plus Academy for Civil Services. It's a video on daily news and editorial analysis, which I'll be covering from the Hindu and Indian Express. The most important news and editorial of the day that is relevant for both prelims and mains examination perspective of civil services will be discussed in this session. Let's get started with the news topic list. Today is 11th of November. The first important news that is wait time for US visa expected to normalcy by 2023. This is what the US official has said. Second, GST panel called for a real formula on the rates with the online gaming. There has been a meeting with the GST Council to finalize the rate for the online gaming, gambling, and casinos. Third, Jharkhand forms task force to study climate commitments. This has become the state which is looking forward to ensure that जो भी commitment है इंडिया की climate change को लेकर के उसे पूरा किया जा सके. Fourth, younger generation being diagnosed with the diabetics at earliest stage. And the last is an editorial, it's a playback time. Apart from the news and editorial discussion, at the end of this video, there will be MCQ based questions. These questions will be based on current affairs that will help you for the upcoming prelims examination. So without any further delay, let's get started. And before I begin, those of you who are new to our channel, do not forget to subscribe Apti Plus Academy for Civil Services on YouTube. If you like this video, if you find this video informative and helpful, do not forget to press a like button. Starting the session with the first news, that is wait time for US visa expected to normalcy by 2023. Something important for General Studies paper 2 under the subtopic effect of policies and politics of developed and developing countries on India's interest and India's diaspora. So according to the US Embassy, they have said that the wait time for the US visa are expected to move further towards normalcy by mid-2023. After the post-COVID, the number of the applicants for the visa in US has taken a toll और काफ़ी ज़्यादा numbers of applicant होने की वजह से जो clearance rate है वो even 300 days तक चली गई है US के visa के लिए. Now, there are some progress that has already been made through the challenges in the rule and opening of the 1,000, almost close to lakh slots that is open for H and L work visas. We'll see the types of the visas so that it can give you a precise idea. Now, after issuing 82,000 student visa for India this year, this is what the United States has actually issued the visa for Indian student. The US Embassy will call for reducing the time for the non-immigrant works visa for H and L categories, including the coveted H1 visa and B1 visa, जो कि businesses के लिए दी जाती हैं. B2 visa is for tourism and visas crew for shipping companies and airlines as well. Now, there are types of visa which you must know because this is there in news and this can be relevant for the prelims as well specifically. So what is H1B visa? These are issued to the skilled worker and are the most popular among the IT companies specifically in India. This H1B visa for the people is specialty occupation that require higher education degree or equivalent. Now there's H2B visa also. This is issued to seasonal workers in landscaping hospitality industries. Now, second is B visa, that is for business and tourism. This is basically a visa that called for a visa for temporary visitor for business or places. Now, this category include B1, B2, that is for the temporary visitor for the business, while B2 is a temporary visitor for tourism. So, B1 is specifically a category for business, while B2 is a category for tourism, right? So, these are the thin line difference. Now, there's L1 visa, which allows companies to transfer high-skilled workers to the US for a period up to 7 years. And there's H4 visas for dependents of H1B visas and to the holders, right? So, J1 visas for student on work study manner for the program. Suppose a student who is going to study in a summer study program, they will be issued with J1 visas, right? Now, there's a drop box facility which is there. The US will initially focus aggressively on the applicant on this category using a drop box facility which US has started. Those who's already issued the US visa are exempted from interviews before taking the case of time. Time basically जो time है first time first serve basically applicant की basis पे भी US approval देती है. But after this facility, that is a drop box facility, they will be augmenting the overall process. The effort will be on reducing the wait time. जो मैंने आपको बताया, it has taken a toll up to 300 days of wait time has been there. So possibly this will reduce. Priority will be given to H1B visa, which is basically for technocrats जो IT companies हैं उनके workers को दी जाती है US में, who want to basically reunion, focus on self with the applicants as well. Now, the US is resorting to the spades such as temporary workers and sending Indian applicants to remote locations, progressing especially for those using a Dropbox facility. Now, there's a long waiting time. Even the appointment of the waiting time for B1 and B2 visa and other is more than 900 days. This is what the actual, I have given you the number of 300, that is for tourism visa and other visa. But if you go for business visa and if you go for like work visa, H1B visa की बात करें, यहाँ पे 900 days तक की भी time देखी गई, right? So formal complaint was raised by the government of India to the United States to overcome the problem, and even the external affairs minister when visited United States has highlighted the issue. Now, if you talk about the long time, you can see the number of applicants from different cities across India. So non-immigrant visas and appointment wait time. So this is for Calcutta 587, Delhi 581, Chennai 557, Hyderabad 518, and Mumbai 517. And this is six. This is for the exchange program and all other non-immigrant visas. Now, talking about Indian talent that is on the high demand in the United States. So, the country of origin for H1B visa recipient for 2022. So, India was among the highest among all the countries, followed by China, then Canada, South Korea, Philippines, Taiwan, Mexico, and Brazil. Now, the news GST panel called for early formula on the rates for the online gaming, something important for General Studies Paper 3, Indian Economy and Issues Related to Planning, Mobilization, Resource Growth and Development. So a ministerial panel formed for casino, race course and online gaming for the GST Council regime, and the meeting was held of the GST to come back to the previous rate, right? जो initial report present की गई है GST Council की जो meeting हुई थी उसमें जो rate recommendations किए गए वो rate पे लाने की बात की गई. The official aware of the panel deliberates so that the major changes as expected on the earliest submissions report and it puts on the discussion officially. And the group of ministers held June likely to incorporate in additional comments in this report. Now, focus on taxation की बात की गई है. The tax authorities should try to focus on the taxation aspects and not define the respective of prohibited, which is relevant for betting and gambling. जो definitions हैं online gaming की, that is an actionable claim that should be revisited by exercising the power under section 7 of the CGST, that is Center GST जो act है उसके through. One rate should be levied, whether 18% or 28%, still it's like a plus cess will be also charged. So it could be levied on the gross gaming revenue so that it should be have a policy call. Even a uniformity is required. So the government has to take a call whether they will be sticking with 18% or 28%. Now, the group of ministers has recommended the uniform rate of 28%, right? And casinos, race course, and online gaming, and no distinction is based on the activity of the game and skill or both. So, initially, you can conclude that 28% is the rate that the GST Council Commission has recommended. The GOM, basically, this was the GOM, not the GST Council. So, GOM ने recommend किया था 28%, जिसे GST Council को finally confirm करनी है, right? Now, through the GOM, the GST Tax Appellate Tribunal has finalized the recommendations of the group of ministers on the rate rationalization and not finalized the report. The next council meeting is now likely to be held after the upcoming state election in Himachal Pradesh and Gujarat. Now, moving to the other news, Jharkhand forms task force to study climate commitment, something important for General Studies Paper 3, Conservation, Environmental Pollutions, Degradation and EIA. So Jharkhand has formed a task force to study the impact of climate change. And recently the government of Jharkhand has formed a task force to study how the climate change, basically जो भी state की contribution है उस climate change में वो कैसे वो reduce कर सके और एक sustainable way की तरफ आगे बढ़े. So at the COP26 meeting, which was held last year in Glasgow, India has made a commitment to the net zero emissions by 2070. The Prime Minister has advocated for this timeline and set a target for the capacity to generate 500 gigawatts of non-fossil fuel energy. Now, about this task, the task force comprises officials from 13 different departments that has been formed to assess the magnitude, nature, and even to accelerate the phase out of the coal mine. Specifically talking about Jharkhand, Dhanbad में एक काफ़ी बड़ी mine है, and even a place called Jharia which is there. So these basically place has a lot of mines, and even the dust environmental pollution is upgraded on that part. The task force will study the effect of the transition of the fossil fuel based ecosystem, communities, and workplace particularly impacted by the planned and unplanned coal closures of mines. तो कई ऐसी माइन है जहाँ पे ओपन माइनिंग की जाती है, that is also an environmental decremental. Now, with the state owned with the endowment, the large number of coal based located states is necessary to study the impact and the study and even the state of the people to prepare the transitions towards green sustainable model of development. Younger generation being diagnosed with the diabetics at the earliest age, something important for general studies paper 2, issues related to development and management of health. So these are some of the astonishing fact coming directly from the healthcare sector, which has given us an alert that the young people are also being diagnosed with diabetics. Something like diabetologists as a part of ongoing study have found that the younger generations were diagnosed with type 2 diabetics and even 10 to 15 years earlier compared to the parent generation. कई ऐसे स्टडीज में astonishing fact आई है जिनके पेरेंट्स ने जिस एज में बेसिकली डायबिटिक हुए थे उससे 10 साल पहले even for 10 to 15 years prior they are getting the diabetic. Suppose their parents have been witnessed in 60 year, now the like children is being witnessed in 40s और late 40s, तो इस तरह के basically reports publish किए गए. Now these were diagnosed with the diabetics between 40 to 50 years of age. Now reasons क्या है इस तरह के problems के? Definitely it's a lifestyle problem. Diabetic is the lifestyle problem disease, right? It's a younger generation mainly due to the stressful life and even the dietary pattern which is not there, sedentary life due to lack of physical activity. We have almost lost the physical activity. Living in the urban area, do not get access to basically grounds and playground to walk around, and even do not get a space to have a jogging other space. So this has led to a life which is becoming more hectic and more disease prone. The studies found that the family trees of the patients aged between 35 to 70 are attending the diabetic clinic at the age when the patient should be diagnosed with 40 to 50. तो age basically जहाँ पे 40 से 50 होनी चाहिए वो अब 35 तक आ चुकी है. Now there are type 2 diabetics occurring 10 to 15 years earlier than the patient's generations. And among the patients without family history of the diabetics, common risk factors include obesity followed by hypertension and dyslipidemia. Now, higher cases की बात करें, women were reported with a higher number of cases. The prevalence of diabetic was higher among the women, right? And in patients without family history of type 2 diabetics, women had higher incidence of this basically dyslipidemia, which is in part ability to mobilize the lipids. और lipids नहीं basically जब वो नहीं हो पाती है, impart नहीं हो पाती, then that is creating a problem, right? So comparison with the patients of two other generations, the diabetic has been prevalence in these patients which is higher in especially women's में ज़्यादा है compared to men's. Now, if you talk about the countries, India has the second highest number of diabetic patients aged between 20 to 79. China is the world largest country which has a huge number of patients of the diabetics, followed by India, United States, Pakistan, and Brazil. Now, remedy क्या है? Doctors का कहना है that there is a lifestyle modification that is essentially required. Better eating pattern. You have a nutritional food, leafy vegetables, food that is basically low in calorie, low in sugar is going to help you, right? And even the observational study found that the diabetic treatment was like 75 to 80% of them do not wear a protective footwear and even could lead to the neuropathic ulcers. Uncontrolled diabetic lead to damage of the nerves, especially the limbs, which turn the tissues leading to the ulcers. Now, among the patient's family history of the diabetics, common risk factors include obesity is one of them. So, you need to have a good BMI. अगर बात करें बॉडी मास इंडेक्स की वो आपकी 24 के अंदर होनी चाहिए, राइट? इट शुड बी बिटवीन 23 to 24. दिस इज द आइडियल BMI दैट यू शुड हैव. If you want to check, go calculate your height and weight. And even for all the aspirants who are preparing for civil services, make sure you are not obese. You are healthy enough that your mind function properly. Now, moving to the editorial of the day, it's a playback time, something important for general studies paper 2. Under the subtopic bilateral regional grouping and agreement involving India and affecting India's interest. So what I'll be discussing in this editorial, we'll be looking into the theme first, that is the COP27, climate change and the global efforts. So first is the global carbon emissions, alternative source of energy, electric vehicles and hydrogen, and the way ahead. Now, at the ongoing COP27, which is at Sharm el Sheikh, मैंने आपको इसके बाद map भी दिखाया. Map is very important. I've discussed this map twice or thrice. I'm expecting that you people are aware of the fact that where it's a location, right? It's based in Egypt, or IPCC has made it clear that the climate catastrophe is unfolding, right? Now, the global warming has already touched 1.1 degrees Celsius, an extreme weather event, more frequently severe. The current commitment and policies in the different nations will lead to temperature rise of 2.8 degrees Celsius by end of the century. The window of the opportunity to restrict global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius seems to be closely rapidly. Now, this avert the carbon emissions must cut down by 45% by 2030 and touch to the net zero by 2050. ग्लोबल कार्बन एमिशंस की अगर बात करें, G20 कंट्रीज ऑलमोस्ट 70% ऑफ ग्लोबल एमिशंस में कंट्रीब्यूट करती हैं, and even the US is like preeminent in the part of, and it has also taken the critical responsibility talking about the climate finance. US को सबसे ज़्यादा climate finance में support करने की बात की गई because they are the country which is emitting the most of the carbon, right? Now, as per the per capita emissions, notwithstanding with the SARP increasing to over 20 years, 14.6 ton of the per capita is still highest among the other margin countries. China की बात करें, it's contribute 8.4 ton with Europe 6.8 ton. तो कंट्री की contributions है. This data will help you in the mains examination. अगर आप mains में लिख रहे हैं तो इस तरह के डेटा जरूर कोट करें. This will definitely give you an additional advantage. Now, China will have further factories in the world which will emit again the most carbons. It has declared that 2060 as a year to achieve the net zero emission, and the West pledges by 2050. It has need to reach the net zero emission much earlier. तो चाइना को भी उससे पहले करने की जरूरत है. The alternative source of energy की अगर बात करें, electricity is one of them to have a, this is something a low hanging fruit to decarbonizations. And solar and wind is the cheapest form of electricity, right? Germany की अगर बात करें, 40% of the electricity are renewable and has decided for the fossil fuel electric system by 2035. So as the California in the United States. India की अगर बात करें, India has a commendable climate responsibility. Prime Ministers ने already 2030 तक की बात की है 500 gigawatts, and we have already said that India would be achieving net zero emissions by 2070. Now, the advanced economy like US, Europe, China, Japan, South Korea are aiming to have a carbon-free electricity by 2030. So this is again a big announcement by the countries. This would undoubtedly change the, and even but not beyond the technology capabilities, but also for the economical part as well. इलेक्ट्रिकल व्हीकल और हाइड्रोजन जो है बहुत बड़ी अल्टरनेटिव है इसमें. ईवी की बात करें, दे हैव अराइव्ड टू अ गेन मार्केट एंड अक्रॉस द यूरोप and world. Europe has decided that to end the sale of the internal combustion engine vehicle by 2035, and UK has already set a target for 2030. India will definitely do in that regard. And in the increasing of the renewable energy, electricity will be decarbonized and EV transport. Hydrogen can be substitute for the fossil fuel. Green hydrogen made renewable is one of the solutions to them. Now, way ahead की अगर बात करें, what is the way ahead in a conclusion on this regard? So as a backthrough, which is a breakthrough that occurs, making industrial scale deployment feasible, such as technology pathway for the net zero emissions, is something which is clear. So technological upgradations and the part of state of art technology will definitely call for more less effort and more dedication in terms of achieving the target. A rapid transitions can be promoted by having lower tax rate for goods with productions has low to zero emissions. A different import structure that would incentivize the transition in exporting countries would be the part of it. And advanced industries economy need to act now to decarbonize rapidly. So it's a global effort that is dedicatedly required. Even for the developed countries, it is essentially required to have a climate finance and help the developing countries to overcome the problem. Now, moving to the MCQ questions of the day, before I proceed, just to tell you the answers of yesterday's questions. For first question, the correct option is C. For second question, the correct option is C. Today's MCQ for practice, आपको बताना है कार्बन वॉच किस सिटी ने लॉन्च किया है. कर्नाटका, चंडीगढ़, मध्य प्रदेश और झारखंड. Now, the second question is the Defense Acquisition Council, which is also known as DAC. It's a constitutional body, right? The Prime Minister of India is the chairman of this council. So do check it out for the correct option. This is a kind of a revision question that will give you an added advantage in the upcoming prelims examination. So this was all about for the daily news and editorial analysis, followed by the MCQ questions. If you have any other concern, you can let me know. I'll be more than happy to assist you. For time being, I'm signing off. Thank you so much for watching this video.